All right, we're watching a one-year low for the Canadian dollar right now, and obviously we're looking ahead to interest rates. Mike Eppel's got all of the nitty-gritty details for you this morning. Hi, Mike.
Good morning, Melanie. We're looking at the Canadian dollar dip below 75 cents U.S. coming into the session this morning following a speech late yesterday by Bank of Canada Governor Stephen Poloz. He was talking in Victoria, BC, and all of the talk after the actual speech was about next month's interest rate policy announcement on July 11th. Will the central bank be raising rates another 0.25% and hiking borrowing costs for mortgage holders, variable rate mortgages, or if you want to get into the housing market or anything of that nature? And Poloz said what we already knew for the most part, that it's data dependent. It'll come down to what the economy is actually doing. We've got some key economic statistics due before July 11th, including a GDP update and unemployment data. But the market really keyed in on some comments about the current environment when it comes to trade. And Poloz said that, yeah, indeed, this trade battle is escalating tension between Canada and the U.S., which is set to be ratcheted up another notch July 1st when we implement those reciprocal tariffs on U.S. items in retaliation for what the U.S. did already. Could weigh on the economy. So they're looking at that as well as a determining factor. So it's right now still a 50-50 chance they're going to stay on the sidelines. So the market's betting that way to some extent, sending the Canadian dollar lower this morning. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has an interesting Canada Day itinerary, likely tied into the trade escalation, with July 1st being that day where we hit back against the U.S. tariffs with various products. Trudeau is going to be traveling to Leamington, Ontario. That's a huge agricultural sector in southern Ontario, about maybe perhaps buying Canadian from a consumer standpoint. Also going to Regina, Saskatchewan, meeting with steel mill workers in that city. High-flying stocks at the TSX taking a tumble in Wednesday's trade, specifically those cannabis companies, as we saw shares of Canopy Growth and others drop by as much as 10% after Canopy issued actual earnings data. Now we're still ahead of the October 17th legalization of cannabis sales, so investors are trying to figure out exactly how much money these companies could make. Right now they're losing a lot, and Canopy Growth, which had seen its market value rise to over $8 billion, taking a leg lower, and it did drag the TSX down on the day. Perception versus reality in the housing market. Well, a new study by the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, reported in the Toronto Star this morning, indicates that homeowners in Vancouver and Toronto believe that foreign buyers have a major influence on home prices in those two cities. The actual data points from Stats Canada point perhaps otherwise. Of course, we've got the foreign buyers tax implemented in both Ontario, or in Vancouver and Toronto, and sales this year have slumped quite significantly compared to last year. And of course, going into the long weekend, all eyes on gas prices, expected to go up in the early bird forecast because the price for oil this morning on global markets is at a 3-year high, almost $73 a barrel. I'll send it back.